The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Fridays with Vistage webinar. Before we begin, I want to go over some housekeeping items to help you participate in today's event. If you are experiencing technical difficulties joining the webinar session, you can dial support at 888-259-8414. That's 888-259-8414. You can also type into the questions pane of your GoToWebinar control panel, and I'll respond to you there directly. When you joined today's webinar, you selected to join either by phone call or computer audio. If for any reason you need to change your selection, you can do this by accessing your audio pane in your GoToWebinar control panel. During the presentation, all participants will be in listen-only mode. This simply means that you are muted so we don't pick up any noise from your end. We do welcome and give you the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenters by typing your questions into the questions pane of your GoToWebinar control panel. You may send in your questions at any time. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. All right, I would now like to introduce the moderator for today's webinar, Bill Black. Welcome, Bill. You now have the floor.
Hello, welcome to Fridays with Vistage. My name is Bill Black, and I'm a Vistage member and speaker, and I will be your moderator today. Today's webinar is entitled Win the War for Talent, 6 Key Trends for 2018. Here's a question for you. What can you offer great talent if you're focused on finding and keeping the best employees? Well, using the 2018 hiring guide, Kathleen Quinn Votaw will outline the 6 things great talent wants from you. Kathleen is a Vistage member and speaker, an author and CEO of Talent Trust. Kathleen has decades of earning accolades in the staffing industry. However, she determined that traditional models don't always serve the best interest of clients. She vowed to disrupt the stagnant staffing and recruiting industry. In 2003, Kathleen launched Talent Trust to help companies find, keep, and grow the best people. Her firm's expert team collaborates closely with executives to identify the root causes and often interrelated issues behind a company's human capital challenges. Talent Trust serves companies and clients across the United States, employs a team of 20+ people, and was listed as an Inc. 5000 fastest growing company in 2015 and 2016. Kathleen is a speaker and the author of a book titled Solve the People Puzzle, How High-Growth Companies Attract and Retain Top Talent. Kathleen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bill, and welcome everyone to Fridays with Vistage. Can you believe it is March already? I can't believe how fast the year is going past us. I hope your first 2 months of the quarter have been very successful, and I look forward to sharing with you some key trends that you can apply in your company over the next couple months to win the war on talent. I will pause my webcam and focus on the content until later in the discussion. So we're talking about 2018 and the trends and factors that are going to affect your ability to win this war in talent. It's crazy that things have gotten so challenging for all of our clients out there and many of the Vistage community. It's hard to imagine, but the pace is only going to get tougher. Talent management is an urgent issue for all of you to address, no matter what size your company. Technology is upending everything. Even this morning, my little webcam wouldn't work, but everybody's so accustomed to having those things working at the drop of a hat. But technology is really changing the way we get business done. And millennials, God bless them, they now make up half of the workforce, and they're demanding purpose, flexibility, rapid career growth, like I just got my job yesterday, I want a raise tomorrow, and they're redefining the structure and meaning of work. Solving the people puzzle is going to be a strategic piece of every business plan, and today's, not tomorrow's, priority. In the 2018 hiring guide, which we will share with you, my company shares really interesting trends and proven solutions that will help you really break out of the trends you're currently experiencing. We call it posting and praying and not focusing on recruitment as a strategic process. We're still going to have labor and leader shortages well into the future, even if there's an economic downturn, because we have an inventory issue. We will always need human skills, even though technology and robots and artificial intelligence are taking over. They're not going to replace human skills, empathy, creativity, and dare I say, even the heart of business. We will be working together in an entirely different way and integrating all of those key factors and technology and artificial intelligence. Teams are replacing hierarchy. Flexibility is replacing structure. Speed is increasingly important. Everybody wants it now, whatever it is. And people work more from home. I'm working from my home on top of Conifer Mountain right now in Conifer, Colorado. And guess what? Technology works up here too at 9,500 feet. Organizations are really starting to empower their people, which is a wonderful thing. They're spending less time controlling. There's more trust in the workplace. And everyone at every level is learning to adapt to some change. But most of these changes are being driven by the emerging generations who, again, are going to make up a big part of the workforce. Boomers, who are moving into their late 60s and early 70s, they're beginning to retire or redefine how they engage with the workforce. And they're taking everything they know with them. So we need to build bridges for that knowledge share between all the generations. Organizations are really beginning to recognize that the whole person comes to work, not just an employee. I have the pleasure of working with many young mothers in my organization, and one of my key people had to leave a meeting this week because her child was sick. We have to understand that we don't only hire the person, but we hire their families, their realities, and their needs and wants, and their priorities. You know, figuring out how to retain people and being very in tune with the whole person is a path to long-term retention and sustainability. Burson is the talent division of Deloitte, and we really focus on their research a lot. They are a research guru, if you will, in the talent acquisition environment. Their recent research found that 90% of companies believe their industries will be totally disrupted by digital trends. And a few more other points that I'll share. Employees are overwhelmed and stressed out. 49% of employees are working 50 hours a week and 20% 60 hours a week, but still productivity is suffering. And since 2000, the year 2000, most people have lost about 1 week of vacation. No wonder why everybody's crabby. We should really adopt 6 weeks of vacation that the European people do. Organizational design is going to continue to be a challenge. Think about how we even visually represent organizational design. That's going to need to change. Culture and engagement will remain top key priorities for every company. Real-time feedback and analytics will explode in every factor in every industry. And making sure we're inclusive and unconscious biases and diversity is going to be really big points to focus on. And key to this conversation today is the future of work is going to push your human resources teams into a very strategic role. With virtually everything around us changing, there are certain aspects of work that will always be true, and I talked about them earlier. You got to focus on ethics, respect, fairness, honesty, and human values. I want you all, as we walk through this today, to slow down long enough to ensure that basic values are built into every business function and relationship. It will help you more easily attract people and retain top talent. It's a very competitive landscape out there right now, and our lovely Vistage community gets polled often. And in a recent report from Vistage of our 22,000 members, it's a very tight labor market, we know that, and Joe Galvin, who is our Vistage Chief Research Officer, stated that while adding headcount is essential to growth, retaining, developing, and engaging existing talent is critical. It forms a foundation for adding new people. Just as you are looking for the best talent, so is everyone else, and they are looking at your people too. 70% of people out there in the universe of companies are hiring, and 76% of your employees are actually looking for work. Sorry for the background noise, people. It was technology interrupting our conversation. So Joe is very smart in sharing the statistics with all of you that 70% of you are hiring, and then 76% of your workforce is either open to or actively engaged in looking for another job. So unfortunately, we're in the perfect storm. And I think many of you who've joined us today know that. Findings from Vistage, again, are echoed by the National Center for Middle Market. So it's not just our stats, it's the National Center for Middle Market, which most Vistage companies are. And Tom Stewart, who I know personally, he's the Center Executive Director, he states that finding, developing, and keeping talent has become the middle market's biggest challenge. So I'm going to talk about 6 factors today that will be particularly important for you to address right now, 2018, March 2nd. These are the things for you to be focused on. Organizational structure. Throw out formality completely. Throw formality out the window. Communication, reporting lines, and infrastructure are moving toward building connections, strong relationships, great rapport, and collaboration across the entire organization. Remember the org chart I talked about, it's collapsing and becoming more of a network versus a hierarchical structure. Teams will be more diverse and will have to adapt. They'll be in different geographical locations. They're going to be solution focused rather than organized around job descriptions. And egos will really have to have no place on teams for the future. Social networks are going to become more the standard for teams, and you can work with people all over the globe to achieve success. We're going to see work relationships in virtual teams that are going to be working effectively without ever meeting one another. I dare say sometimes at Talent Trust with some of our customers, we have not met in person. Now that might shock some of you, but you don't have to meet in person anymore with video technology. You can get that nonverbal interaction, although not perfect. It is very helpful to have the video technology we have today. Teams will communicate through our video conferencing, webinars like we are now, email texting, and new communication tools, which I don't even know what they're going to come up with next, but I can't wait to find out. And phone calls, they're going to become increasingly rare because 85% of communication is nonverbal. And if you're just on the phone, you are not going to get 85% of that person's intent. Thinking of shaking a head, yes or no, or the way they hold their eyebrow, or the way they're sitting, all of those things inform your communication. So video technology, if you're not using it, I invite you to start working with it with your key leaders. It'll be revolutionary for you. Again, Burson is talking about organizations that need to design themselves around a network of teams. And these teams will share values and culture. They'll talk about values and culture. They'll have transparent goals and projects. They'll ensure free flow of information and feedback. Then they're going to reward based on skills and abilities, not the position. Second, culture. Culture is absolutely foundational to every piece of work we do for our clients. Get really close to employees and know what they want, because culture is about what your employees want. Kurt Kaufman wrote a book entitled First Break All the Rules, and in that book he talks about Big C and Little C. Big C is the culture that is the executive team that meets and writes your vision, mission, and values, and then puts them on a wall and forgets about them, or doesn't know how to live them, best case. And Kurt suggests that it's really little c we need to listen to. Culture is still one of the most important things that people look at very carefully when choosing an employer. Workplace cultures have changed a lot, but many haven't evolved enough to really engage the millennial and Gen Z workers. It'll continue to change in the next decade, but more in the traditional times, employees expected and sometimes tolerated workplace cultures that were overly structured, inflexible, and unaccommodating to individual needs. The younger generations, they are much more likely to leave under situations that aren't compassionate to their needs. And many companies are paying the price. For example, my niece is working with a very large consumer products company, and she's been approached within the organization by two key managers to come join their teams. Unfortunately, her current manager is not allowing her to pursue any other position within her own consumer products company. And ultimately, unfortunately, that company is going to lose a very good asset because the manager, in this case, is being selfish, because if he lets her go, he's going to have to refill the position, and if he lets her go, he's going to lose a great asset. So the result of that story, that consumer products company is going to lose her altogether. And of course, she has the auntie who happens to be in a position to help her. So think of that as you're making decisions when people ask for advancement or training. Workplace cultures, like everything else, need to keep up with the changing expectations and practices, and everyone's an individual. The only way you'll know what your people want is to ask them. And there's many tools that we use with our clients to help them get to what their people want. As you evaluate and update your culture, you've got to be aware how closely culture and values are intertwined. Your values kind of set up your culture. Take compensation, for example. Something that has always been important to employees and to you who are on the phone. I mean, compensation is an emotional thing. It's what we're worth, how we're valued. If the pay package you offer is fair and generous, it says something about your culture and your values. If your offer is stingy, it also says something about your culture and values. Not exactly what you want to say. So successful companies make sure that their values and cultures are aligned, and that's just one example of where it could impact you. Today's employees' expectations around culture go really wide and really deep. They are looking for purpose, leadership. They want to know your story. So if you're a manager, a director, VP, president, CEO, they want to know your story. How did you get to where you are? They want growth opportunities. Remember the story of my niece. Her manager is blowing it because he is worried about the workload that he'll have to do or replacing a job versus worrying about how her career can advance. It's the wrong focus. And feedback. I will share with you the emerging generations, the millennials and the Gen Zs, are hungry for feedback on a very regular basis, not annual reviews. Those are passé. Work-life balance. The example I gave you of one of my key people, she has to take care of her baby. He's got a cold. She's got to go. And I shouldn't hold her back because her family is more important than her work. And then wellness and well-being. We unfortunately in our company had one of our employees have a terrible illness. How are you going to take care of those people through that journey? I don't wish that on any company, but it happens because we employ people. Engagement is really important. Culture and engagement are quite inseparable. Berson suggests that if culture is defined as the way things work around here, then engagement is the way people feel about the way things work around here. Let me say that again so you understand this. If culture is defined as the way things work around here, then engagement is the way people feel about the way things work around here. Get it? Make sense? So engaged employees are looking for values and purpose that match their own. Transparency in communication is huge. Health and wellness and a good working environment, clearly defined roles, good relationships and rapport with colleagues, recognition and incentives. I was just in a Vistage member group meeting yesterday, and recognition doesn't cost you anything. It is a no-cost proposition. Write down one thing from this webinar, and every day for the rest of your career, if you're a manager or director, make sure you reach out and give recognition to somebody who works for you. You'll be amazed at the results you get from that. And people want the opportunity to grow and develop. Remember my niece story when you think about saying to somebody, I'm sorry, I can't let you grow. Nobody wants that kind of message. So work on culture first. It is the foundation for hiring and retaining the right people to ensure your future success. Technology, which we've had to interrupt our conversation today, my apologies, but it's going to happen, right? It's reality. So digital DNA is reinventing HR and drives out biases. But digital DNA connects people and processes throughout all of your systems. People have iPads, they have smartphones, whether you give them to them or not. They've got laptops, they're completely mobile. We've got video conferencing. It is really driving so much change, and HR's focus has always been on people, and arguably it's making it the least predictable and controllable aspect of business, unfortunately. Technology and artificial intelligence is helping and enabling your HR business partners to gain insight on issues, tracking of virtual everything people related, streamlining processes and increasing efficiencies. There's engagement technology, there's applicant tracking technology, there's video conferencing, there's text recruiting. With all this technology, HR can see how candidates discover your company. They can, in a minute, find out a lot about you if they Google your company name. They can discover your name, they can discover your top key people, how your employees' brand shows up in the marketplace. An employee brand is really important. Many companies focus on your customer brand and forget to focus on your employee brand, your employer brand. It is vital in the next few years for you to make sure that you have some kind of employment brand that shows people who you are in the marketplace. It's very important. Applicants can understand what makes employees stay with the company and what makes them leave. People are talking about the good and the bad. And with the new platforms, they can evaluate employee experiences from end to end, candidate to recruitment. So it works on both sides. HR can use these tools, and so can the people looking at your company. There's new apps are available to use for feedback, engagement. I mentioned a few of those. And it's really cool what's happening with technology in the people space. Unfortunately, there's a gap in how to use it. It's a really hot market, but how to use it. So HR technology has created lots of change, and using this technology can help you in a few ways. It can help you create real-time, team-centric goals, department by department, help people perform at a higher level with training applications, develop and coach low performers, all kinds of coaching tools and technology out there, differentiate pay for performance, Lots of compensation tools, provide continuous learning, and give frequent development feedback. There's a company that we work with out of Canada that has a real-time performance management tool, which is really making the annual review passé. It's a wonderful tool to get your hands on so you move out of the antiquated annual review, which just distracts everybody. So my next point is recruiting imperatives. Understand what your candidates like and dislike. It's very important. The competition for great talent is still on the rise. Everyone wants what they want, and they want the best right now. You can't afford to take your focus off of your employment brand, as I mentioned earlier, or equally important is the candidate experience you create. We think of creating great experiences for our employees. What kind of experiences are you making for your candidates? Human Resources Today predicts that decisions about recruiting and development will be tied closely to the bottom line and ROI. It should already, but unfortunately, people don't have the tools they need yet to make those decisions. How do you make recruiting personal and economical at the same time? First, it really helps to understand what a good candidate experience looks like. And so we're offering you today some research and some of our expertise. It was cited in Human Resources Today and some research by Software Advice, and also our experiences with our clients. I'm going to share with you what candidates hate and what they want. So what makes a bad candidate experience? Unclear application instructions and also non-automated applications. Really, people, if you're doing paper applications, that's a no-brainer. Extremely long applications, minimal job descriptions, and I would dare say boring job descriptions. Another key takeaway, go to your job descriptions, read them, and if you wouldn't work for you, rework them. You know, talk to your marketing people. Stop writing boring job descriptions that nobody wants to come work for you. You're not inspiring them to opt in, so why would they? No confirmation email with technology. I'm sure all of you have some form of Outlook. You can send a meeting request, a confirmation email. Then they also hate no notice when the position is filled. Like you just go dark, nothing ever happened, they never met you, they don't know who you are. That's totally not okay. And then unable to contact either an internal recruiter or an external recruiter for information. People are in a very, they're in a very hard spot when they're looking for a job, whether they're employed or whether they're unemployed. It is a very tough time in people's lives. And we need to make our practices considerate and compassionate of those people. So conversely, what makes a good candidate experience? Hopefully you're writing all this down. More communication, over-communicate, I would even suggest, because you realize how tentative and how hard this time is for this human being going through the job search. Notification if passed over. Some people are so scared to tell people no. Here's the words. Thank you for applying. We really enjoyed meeting you and talking about your qualifications. We have decided to bring on someone who meets the criteria just a little bit better. We wish you the best in your journey. Let us know if we could be of any further help. That's just human care, people. Timeline of the hiring process. I'll tell you, so many companies have over-engineered the hiring process. It shouldn't take 3 months, 5 months, 6 months to make a hiring decision. but when it does take time, please give the candidates the timeline so they know what to expect. It's kind of rude not to. Human contact after the application. Video technology. You could schedule 10 minutes just saying, if you have a candidate you think is really someone you want to pursue, schedule a 5-minute Skype call just saying, hey, Joe, I'm really excited you took the time to fill out the application. We're reviewing your material. You know, hang in there. Here's a timeline. A little human kindness goes a long way. and really being timely in your replies. We got a compliment, unsolicited compliment from a candidate we were working with for one of our clients, and he said our team made all the difference because he always knew every day where he was in the process. So hopefully those are two really good key takeaways for you today. And companies of all sizes are responding to candidates' expectations and making sure they understand the experience. It covers everything from sourcing to welcoming, training, onboarding, but onboarding is a whole nother webinar. Turn the phrase candidate experience on its side. It's not about the educational or professional experience they offer you. It should be about their experience with your organization. How do you cultivate a relationship with them? Engage them in conversation. You'll learn a lot more if you do. Sell them on the benefits of working for your firm. Stay connected to them all the time until you make a final selection, and dare I say even after you make a final selection, because people who you would interview might be good for another job somewhere down the line, and then get their commitment to join your team, welcome and train them, and keep them engaged during the full employment life cycle. We're going to talk next about the role of HR, which, HR is all, I love HR people. They're often misunderstood. And they're really working to be more strategic, and I want to help them get there. Companies really are starting to understand the value of strategic HR, people who are strategic, who think forward about it, align their decisions with the top line and the bottom line. After years of hearing Jim Collins, who I'm sure you've all heard of, that you have to get the right people on the bus, well, companies are finally recognizing that HR strategies are what they need to attract and retain the right people. Unfortunately, HR sometimes is delegated to payroll, benefits, employee relations, and those three things alone are a big job. We need to give our HR leaders some more strategic alignment, bring in some experts to get them over their hump, and start learning about best practices in recruitment and retention and engagement. Here are some trends that we're seeing with some really high-achieving companies in the role of HR. They're getting more strategic and future-focused. And if you're an HR person joining us today, these are some things you can think about in your role. Focusing on business-related and competitive advantages. Their marketing experience and perspective on creating and maintaining an employee brand. I encourage all of you on the call to bring your marketing department and your HR department together. They can do wonderful things when they have the support, because HR needs the marketing support to build a great employment brand. Central focus on candidate experience. If you're an HR leader or you're thinking about your HR team, what is the experience of their customer, who is the employee? Concentration on jobs and talent with the biggest business impact first. Prioritization is key. The use of data rather than their heart or intuition for recruiting, learning, and predicting performance. And they're using more talent advisors with business acumen. HR is starting to get less scared by bringing in companies like mine to help them be better, because we have set HR up that they have to do it all and they have to do it all perfectly. Well, guess what? Every other division in the company gets to bring on consultants and business subject matter experts. They can too. The strategic role of HR and decisions about talent and how it is organized really will increasingly be recognized, as pivotal in to sustain your strategic success. Forgive me, I tripped over that. But I wanted to get that point out. Let me repeat myself. The strategic role of HR, decisions about talent and how it is organized will increasingly be recognized as pivotal to sustainable strategic success. And this is from a panelist, and I was quoting, that's why I tripped over it, from Human Resources Today. We see, unfortunately, I see all over the country many companies lagging in pushing the HR to a strategic role. It's a really important piece for you to pay attention to. Millennials. The table's turning, and it's difficult for any of us to say whether technology or millennials deserve more of the credit, but there's really a ton of change, and maybe they're the ones to credit or maybe blame, depending on your perspective. I think it's credit. That's my perspective. For all this change that has reinvented the way we do business over so few years. Things are moving so quickly. Our workplaces are much more personal than they ever have been in the past. I started my career in 1985, and the evolution has been amazing. This is because new technologies make individualization possible, and millennials really are refusing to abide traditional workplace cultures. They are changing the rules of the game, and it's about time. I'm with them. Not that I'm one of them, but I'm with them. So where are you now that millennials are making up half of your workforce and Gen Z's coming up behind them? Millennial managers are wary of cultural changes. This is according to a Google consumer survey of 1,000 workforce managers. They're very wary of the cultural changes Gen Z are going to make. So think about that for a minute. Millennial managers are worried about the next generation. There's some poetic justice in that, I think. Managers anticipate that Gen Z is going to bring major communications and training related challenges. And millennials are looking for purpose in their work. Gen Zs, the next generation behind them, are much more interested in, guess what, how much they get paid. Holy crap. So wage pressure is here to stay, people. I know you don't want to hear that from me, and don't, kill the messenger. But if Gen Z's coming up right behind millennials and they're worried about how much they want to get paid, guess what? Wage is going to be on the rise. Millennials remember that the early days, they didn't have all the technology, but Gen Z, they've been using technology since they could. So the newest generation in the workplace expects technology of one kind or another to be part of every moment of their day. Think of when you ask a millennial or a Gen Z a question, what do? What's the first thing they do? They pick up their iPad, they pick up their smartphone, and they get the answer. We didn't have that. I used to have to go to Webster's Dictionary or the library, for God's sake. But at any moment, they can pick up their phone and get an answer. Will these Gen Zs be able to communicate in person as well? I think most of them are, and I think some of the training needs to be focused on how to build rapport one-on-one. Taking phones away in meetings and having them commune together. So we don't know the answers yet, but companies need to be prepared for what this new Gen Z generation can do and how they're going to change. So instead of getting surprised, which I think some of us was by the millennial generation, let's take a pause and realize there's another generation coming. They're going to keep coming. Please, God will. Our population will continue to grow. What are we going to do about it? One thing is for sure, all employees want to work in a company where they feel respected, heard, appreciated, and valued, and dare I say, even loved. They want to have the opportunity to grow and succeed. Organizations need to find new ways to provide basic human needs and think of the whole person. So I want to review, before I go into Q&A with you guys, I want to review and recap some of the 6 factors and specific recommendations for each of them. So we talked about a lot this morning or this afternoon, depending, I'm in the mountain time. So organizational structure, that was my first point. Look at how you can further encourage the free flow of information and feedback within your organization. So that's a key takeaway from organizational structure. Culture, it is foundational, people. It is so important. Determine if you have a culture by design or by default. Are you letting it happen to you, or are you guiding it? To learn more about purposeful and about enhancing or leveraging your culture, I encourage you to listen to another Fridays with Vistage webinar entitled Culture by Design by yours truly. Culture is connected with engagement, so look at this within your company and your organization. And find the Gallup Q12. We use that tool with our clients. It is a great measure of engagement and its direct impact on measurable business outcomes. Next, I talked about technology. Evaluate and enhance your use of HR technology. There's so much out there, people. And remember that becoming digital enables you to create real-time, team-centric goals, help everyone perform at a higher level, develop and coach low performers, differentiate pay for performance, provide continuous learning, etc. The next I talked about was recruiting imperatives. Look at the full life cycle of the employee. When does employee experience start? Look even closer at cycles, candidate attraction, engagement, recruitment, selection, hiring, onboarding. Is this all consistent in your recruiting piece? Is it positive? Is it compelling? This is your employment brand, and it's really a transparent age. It is more critical than ever. I really encourage you to search for the article entitled Leverage Your Culture. It's on myvistage.com, and it is also related to a Fridays with Vistage webinar titled similarly. Role of HR, help raise the bar for HR. Please help your HR people move forward and become more strategic. This function can become more strategic and future focused. Help create and maintain your employment brand with them. Don't just delegate to them. Can you outsource and remove some administrative things from them? Can you partner with an outside expert and bring in some SMEs to help them be better at leading your employment brand and your culture? That's what the HR role should be focused on. And we talked about millennials and Gen Y and Gen Z. Get to know what makes these two new generations different, and consider what communications you'll find among the A players in any generation. Bring them together. Great way to bring the generations together is have them mentor each other. What are you going to do to attract and retain people from all generations? Because even the boomers who are exiting into retirement, and if you could see me, I'm air quoting, they want to re-engage. They still want to be relevant. So are you engaging them through contract work? There's all kinds of ways to re-engage them. So I want to thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you have some really actionable takeaways. I have some instructions for you before I turn it over to Q&A to our moderator. Text 44222. Again, it's 44222, and the word people puzzle, no space. And then we'll send you this PowerPoint today that we reviewed and some other cool tools that you can use. Bill, thank you for being our moderator. I'm going to pass it back over to you, and you can drive the Q&A.
As usual, thank you so much for a thoughtful and interesting presentation, Kathleen. We do have some questions, but we have time for a couple more. If you have a question and you're listening to this live, you can put your question, you can type your question into the toolbar on the right-hand side that says questions. Just type it in there and we'll get to it if we have time. Kathleen, our first question today is that you talked about the candidate experience, but didn't touch on the recruitment process. How is that evolving?
Thank you. That's a very thoughtful question from the members. Recruitment is a sales process, Bill, and you should, just as you're always cultivating for your customers and your clients, you should always be cultivating for relationships with new candidates. You can't grow your company if you don't, because we have a huge inventory problem going on out there. In 2018 and beyond, we at Talent Trust anticipate that there's more of a need for strong candidate pipelines. We're all comfortable with having customer pipelines, but we need strong candidate pipelines based on low unemployment and skills shortages and a higher expectation of transparency. Candidates can see what it's really like to work for you and your firm, and there's increased use of data from assessments for hiring decisions. You got to have choice. candidates have choice and employees need to have choice. Make sure you treat recruitment as a sales process and are always cultivating those new candidate relationships.
Excellent. One comment from a listener says, great info. Do you have some takeaway notes? I can't write fast enough. So as usual, Vistage will be reposting this webinar next week. And you will, if you've enrolled in and registered for the webinar, you'll get information on that when it happens. Next question, Kathleen, is I agree that HR needs to become more strategic. I just don't know where to start. What do you advise?
Another great question. Let me address how to get more information as well. Please, if you have a smartphone, text 44222 and the word People Puzzle, no space, and you'll get this deck as our gift to you today. You can also go on to our website and download our new 2018 hiring guide, which goes deeper into this information. So, Bill, would you restate the question?
Yes, of course. I agree that HR needs to become more strategic. I just don't know where to start. What do you advise?
Great. Again, great question. Sorry, I just wanted to get the response in there to that listener. The first step, in my opinion, is conduct a gap analysis that focuses on your people puzzles, talent, and culture. We do this for our clients all over the country, and it really dissects what's going on, what the interrelated issues are, what you're doing well, where there's opportunities, where you need improvement. There's some benchmarks that we have compared our clients to, and we help them get to a level of talent maturity that they are not currently experiencing. This is the first step for us when we engage with any client, to really diagnose where they are in their journey and how HR is developing and what we need to teach them to become more strategic. Then number two, Bill, I would look at the research from the National Center for Middle Market. There's a lot of material out there. It is on our website and under resources, so you can download the report. It outlines the challenges these companies face with recruitment and retention, and some really great takeaways and specific recommendations that you can try in your own companies. So the article is downloadable. I don't know if that's a word, but it's my word of the day. You can download it from our website, and it's a great tool.
Terrific. We just had a question come in. Thanks for the presentation. It was suggested HR and marketing get together to improve the employer brand. The question of the listener is, how about the reverse? Why doesn't marketing come to help from HR? Did you hear of endo-marketing? I guess that's a direct question for you, Kathleen.
Yeah, I haven't heard of endo-marketing, but I'm writing it down. I'm going to go look it up because I have a smartphone, people. I can get information in a minute. But I think in many of the companies that I have advised over the years, marketing tends to be externally focused, not internally focused. So my advice on introduce your marketing people to your HR people was a little bit tongue-in-cheek. I know you know each other. But what I hope you know each other, but what I want you to do is work together for your internal customer. How are you making sure they're engaged? How are you retaining them? How are you feeding them from an engagement and marketing perspective? Because there's choice all around them. Remember I said 76% of the people who work for you right now are either open to or actively engaged in a discussion with another company. How are you, appealing to them to stay? What are you doing? What are your innovations? And I just, HR is a wonderful function. They got a lot on their plate. That's marketing's job, to message and massage, and also to get the applicants on board. So I hope I've answered your question enough. I didn't know that company that you referred to, but I will look it up. But it's really working in a collaborative nature with marketing to make sure you drive applicants to you, and you work on retention and that messaging of what is going on in the company that will make me stay and not go to a competitor. I hope that's clarified it.
Excellent. Kathleen, here's another one. You mentioned 6 elements of culture that are critical to today's employees. Can you expand further on those elements of culture?
Absolutely. I mean, culture is became really sexy in 2015, and now we're trying to figure out what to do with it. We're helping companies really measure it, define it, report on it, etc. But there's 6 key elements. Purpose. People want purpose. Why are we getting up every morning at 5:30 a.m. and, getting ready for our day and leaving our families for 10, 12 hours? Remember, I said a lot of people are working 50 hours or 60 hours. Why? Why are we doing it? Simon Sinek talked about people buy what you do, not why you. They buy why you do what you do, not what you do. People want purpose. Leadership. They want to know your stories. How did you get where you were? What battles did you fight? What did you have to overcome? Really share your war stories. People want growth opportunities. Remember my niece at this consumer products company, don't hold your people back. Feedback is real time. Remember, people can communicate via these smartphones immediately. If I text you, you text me back immediately. Communication is almost instantaneous in this world we live in. Employees want feedback, and that's one key element of culture. Work-life balance. Remember my story about one of my key people that had to leave in the middle of a meeting. But you know what? It was very important to me to make sure she knew our culture was fine. There was 4 people in the meeting, and every single person said, well, you need to go. And nobody cared. They cared about her son. They didn't care that she wasn't at the meeting. And then wellness and well-being, as I mentioned in the conversation.
I'm sure this question is going to lead to more questions, Kathleen. If you have identified that your culture is damaged, what's your suggestion to fix?
I'll go back to another answer I gave. Bring in a subject matter expert to conduct a gap analysis to see what's broken. Because I will, just an encouraging point, there's always something good. I believe to my core and in my heart that all people wake up every day with the best of intentions. So whoever asked that question, I got to tell you, there's something good there. And if there's something good there, my company is going to find it. And we're going to celebrate it. And then we can also define where the problems are and work with you to solve them. Now, a key thing to this is you've got to have leadership support to make this happen. You can't necessarily push it up the hill. You have to have collaboration amongst the key leaders and the directors and managers.
Excellent. Kathleen, how do we balance both short-term and long-term talent needs?
Okay, another wonderful question. I love the members on this webinar today. You're making me think. So re-educating and upskilling your current employees is sometimes the most practical way to go. One of our customers has really started a welding school, for example, because they didn't have any welders. There's a shortage of really good manufacturing employees. So what did he do? He went out and started a school. He tested it, and now it is a profit center in his company. Long term, depending on your industry, you need to look at schools, colleges, vocational programs, and dare I say Vistage, because we have a community of 22,000 business leaders that might be able to help you long term as well. Use your Vistage member group to talk about challenges that you're having, and get involved with other outside organizations to ensure you have a pipeline of people to come on board.
Colleen, excellent job today. Thank you so much. Once again, we had several questions from our members listening, and we really appreciate your time to get us informed about this. Great information, and again, there's information still on the screen if you'd like to get in touch with Kathleen. Thanks so much, Kathleen.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
Well, look at the time. We have several announcements for you at the end of today's webinar. Coming up, we have several webinars in the month of March and April that you should know about. Friday, March 9th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Engage and retain your most valuable employees in 2018. That's again Friday, March 9th. Friday, March 23rd, 2018 at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, tax reform, key considerations for SMBs. So again, that's tax reform on March 23rd. You should also know about Friday, April 6th, rise above the digital noise and get high quality leads. And Friday, April 13th, are you focused on making the right decisions as a CEO? We want to thank you for joining us today at Fridays with Vistage, and want to remind you to tell others at your meetings about Fridays with Vistage webinars. It's one of the best resources of Vistage, and it's absolutely free. So please tell others about Fridays with Vistage at your meetings. Again, my name is Bill Black, thanking you, and on behalf of Vistage Worldwide, we want to wish you continued success. This concludes today's webinar.